Today's story will shake you to your core. A chilling tale of terror, survival, and the unexplainable darkness that can lurk where you least expect it. What makes it more disturbing is that it's a story based on actual events. The story starts with a couple. Kristen McKay and James Hoyt arrive at James's parents' remote summer house late at night after attending a friend's wedding. The mood is tense. The reason behind this tension is when James proposed to Kristen after gathering courage. She turned down his marriage proposal, as she has still not figured out what she wants. All the romantic arrangements James had carefully planned are now meaningless, overshadowed by heartbreak and tension. Feeling dejected and unable to bear another moment in the house, James calls his friend Mike to come pick him up, desperate to leave the place and its memories behind. As they try to settle in, there's a knock at the door. When they open it, a young blonde woman stands outside, her face partly hidden by a broken porch light. "Is Tamara home?" she asks. James and Kristen tell her she must have the wrong house. The woman leaves, disappearing into the darkness. James fixes the porch light and then heads out to buy cigarettes for Kristen, also hoping to clear his head. Left alone, Kristen tries to relax, but the blonde woman returns, asking again if Tamara is home. This time, Kristen doesn't open the door and reminds her that you were already here. The woman responds, "Are you sure?" Moments later, the smoke alarm goes off because the fireplace is blocked. Kristen pulls the alarm down and tosses it to the floor. Suddenly, someone starts banging on the door. Nervous, Kristen locks all the doors and calls James, urging him to come back quickly, but the phone line goes dead. She plugs in her cell phone to charge. She changes her dress and lights a cigarette. As she stands in the living room, a man wearing a sack mask silently watches her from the hallway. She is unaware as he stares, and he vanishes before she notices. There's another loud knock at the door, and Kristen notices the smoke alarm, which was on the floor, now placed neatly on a dining room chair. Alarmed, she searches for her cell phone, but it's gone. Then she hears wind chimes and a strange dragging noise from the back patio. Kristen is scared to her core. Grabbing a kitchen knife, she cautiously approaches the sliding glass door. Pulling back the curtain, she sees the masked man standing outside. He slams his hand on the glass, making her scream. In her panic, she bumps into the phonograph, causing it to play a country song. As she tries to collect herself, the front door creaks open slightly. Peering through the crack, someone wearing a doll-like mask looks inside. Kristen slams the door shut, locks it, and runs to the bedroom, yelling for the strangers to leave. The phonograph suddenly stops, and she hears footsteps approaching. Fortunately, it's James, who has just returned, oblivious to what's been happening. Kristen explains the situation, and the couple searches the house but finds no one. James assumes she's just imagining things. However, they both see the blonde woman, now wearing the doll-like mask, standing in the backyard, staring at the house. James goes outside to grab his cell phone from the car, only to find the car vandalized and his phone missing. While he's crouched by the car, Dollface appears behind him and briefly touches his neck before running off. She reappears a few feet away, watching him. James yells at her to leave as Kristen anxiously watches from the doorway. When James turns back, Dollface is gone. Back inside, they find James's phone on the piano, but the battery has been removed. Realizing they're in serious danger, James decides it's time for them to leave. James and Kristen try to escape in their damaged car, despite its slashed tires. As they back out, a truck pulls up behind them, driven by another masked figure. A dark-haired woman wearing a pin-up-style mask. The man in the mask blocks their path, appearing in front of the car. Suddenly, the truck rams them from behind, forcing them to retreat into the house. Shaken, they find a shotgun and shells in the bedroom, along with the word "hello" painted in red all over the window. Armed with the gun, they head to the front door, where the man in the mask begins breaking it down with an axe. They barricade the door with the piano, and James fires a shot but misses. They flee to a room down the hallway, taking a defensive position with the shotgun aimed at the open doorway. Meanwhile, James's friend Mike, whom James had called earlier, arrives at the house. A rock is hurled at his windshield as he approaches. Confused but concerned, he enters the house through the back door, hearing loud country music playing on the record player. As he steps inside, Dollface silently emerges from the shadows. Mike, noticing the chaos, begins exploring the house. He walks down the hallway just as the music abruptly stops. At that moment, James, mistaking him for an intruder, fires the shotgun. Mike is struck in the head and dies instantly. Realizing their tragic mistake, James is horrified and heartbroken as Mike was his best friend. The strangers taunt them further by painting "Killer." Desperate, James heads to the barn to use a ham radio to call for help. Outside, he sees the pinup girl approaching from the barn. He fires at her but misses. Before he can react, the man in the mask charges at him from behind. Kristen, sensing danger, limps after him despite twisting her ankle. As she crosses the lawn, pinup girl quietly stalks her. Reaching the barn, Kristen tries to use the radio, but pinup girl destroys it before she can call for help. Kristen crawls back to the house, seeing Dollface sitting calmly on the backyard swing set and pinup girl standing near the barn. Inside, she searches for James, but finds only silence. The power suddenly goes out, and the man in the mask enters through the front door. Kristen hides in the pantry, watching as he moves through the living room. When he leaves, she tries to slip out, but Dollface smashes through the pantry door, peering in through the slats. Spotting the engagement ring James had given Kristen earlier, Dollface pauses. Kristen seizes the moment, emerging from the pantry as Dollface twirls a butcher knife on the counter, taunting her. The man in the mask then drags James into the house, battered and defeated. Kristen runs to the bedroom, but the window won't open. The lights flicker back on, and she creeps toward the hallway. Suddenly, the man in the mask charges at her, slamming her head into the wall. She collapses, clawing at the floor as he drags her down the hall. Morning arrives, and James and Kristen are tied to chairs in the living room. Kristen, now dressed back in her white gown, sobs and asks, "Why are you doing this to us?" Dollface coldly replies, "Because you were home." One by one, the masked strangers remove their disguises, though their faces remain hidden. Without hesitation, they take turns stabbing James and Kristen before leaving in their truck. As they drive away, they stop to talk to two boys handing out religious pamphlets. Dollface steps out of the truck and takes one. When one boy asks, "Are you a sinner?" she answers, "Sometimes." As the boys walk off, Pinup Girl quietly says, "It'll be easier next time." The three strangers drive off. The boys eventually reach the house, discovering the heart-wrenching scene. James lies dead on the floor, while Kristen, covered in blood, has crawled a short distance from the living room. As one boy kneels beside her, she suddenly grabs his arm and screams, startling him and leaving the horrific aftermath unresolved. And that's where the story ends. Kindly tell me your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and press the bell icon if you liked the video. Stay safe.